Okay, good afternoon once again. For more AutoCAD tutorials. Fun, fun. Okay, so we have a pretty easy one here. And let me go ahead and pull that up on the screen that's relevant. Okay, so this is a library job. Really easy job, like I had said previously, and the reason why it's easy is because the only thing on this entire job is a coping. If we go, so it's one wall coping on the perimeter of this utility yard that they're building, and I'm not sure why the estimator carried the lineal footage through the end of the new wall. I'm not exactly 100% sure why they did that. Because even the measurement here actually only carries through the column line. And this looks like it's existing, or perhaps it's a door. Actually, let me open a new tab here. I remember seeing something in 3D. Enlarged, no. What is this? The enlarged RCP. So even in the RCP, it's showing that the wall terminates there, the new wall anyways. Let's see. Sorry if you're hearing somebody snoring. That's actually my dog. Not me. Alright, let's see. Sorry for boring you and looking at all these random sheets, but I know that there was a three-dimensional view here somewhere of that utility yard. And I just wanted to take a look at it. Might help us get our bearings on where that wall ends. Nope. No, maybe oh, there it is. Ha, all I had to do was go down a couple pages. Okay, yeah, it might help if I read, right? All right, so yeah, even looking at the three-dimensional isometric view, it looks like it terminates into this wall, this existing wall, so it doesn't go all the way back. So that's fine. You can see that wall here as well. So it looks like it's 13 feet from start to finish. I'm glad they put that dimension there. Very, very nice of the architect. So 13 feet from here to here. Okay, now we've got that figured out. Just making sure where that wall terminated. All right, so the easiest way to do a drawing like this is what? Well, the first thing we need to do is find the profile. So I've already done that. It's on 6015, which is this tab here. Not very helpful, because literally that's all they give you. So it's either scale the drawing or guess. And so we're going to do some scaling and some guessing and some of our own design work, obviously, because I mean that's all we can do, right? All right, so the first thing we're going to do is we're going to find our scale. I don't really have to tell you how to do that. 1/2 inch. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and find our dimensions. So on the back end, looks like we have 1 5/8 inches. Front end, oh, 2 inches. Interesting. One foot 6 5/8. All right. So let's go to AutoCAD. And let's go ahead and get a drawing, a new fresh drawing open. All right. Can't not find, okay. Well, that's interesting. All right. I'm just going to open a previous drawing that I was already working on for the same client. And I'm just going to save a copy. All right, save as. And I'm just going to change the name to the new job. The end part stays the same because it's the same client. So this new job is called the MJG library. Okay, so MJG library, yes, Alliance Masonry. All right, so that's the job name. That's the client name. I'm gonna go ahead and save it. Okay, verify up here in the top that you are working on the proper file before you go changing stuff. Okay, all right, now we have that figured out. Let's go ahead and go to our model. And you're probably just gonna wanna go ahead and delete all that stuff because you don't need it because you're gonna create a new profile. And what you just deleted was from the previous drawing. Okay, so the first dimension was sorry about that. The stupid voice to text thing drives me nuts and it ruined my last video. Let's see if I can turn the dang thing off. Okay. I don't know how to turn the dang thing off, but let's see if I, no. There you go. Quit. All right. Now I don't have to worry about it ruining my video like it did yesterday. Okay. So profile. All right. We were at 1 foot 6 5/8 on the long bottom side. In the front, we were at about 2 inches. So we will go back. Sorry, we'll go back to AutoCAD. Use our line tool. Okay, click on your line tool. You can click anywhere on the open canvas here. Left click. All right, now, as you can see, there's no lock for the line. It just goes anywhere. So if you click there, I mean, obviously you don't want that. You want to draw a straight line. So the easiest way to do that is to click on line. Click anywhere on the open blank canvas where you want to draw. And then click F8 on your keyboard. Okay, that locks the line to straight, hard movements. Okay, that way you're always drawing a straight line, left, right, up, down, whatever. You can also locate that menu here. Okay, it's called Restrict Cruiser Orthogonally. Okay, to be activated and deactivated by using F8 on your keyboard or by clicking this little icon down here. Okay. See how it unlocked it? See how it locked it? Okay, back to measurements. So we're gonna go ahead and type in our measurement. Now you can type in measurements. I don't know if I've explained this to you before or not, but you can type in measurements in feet or inches. I prefer to do everything in inches, to be honest with you, because it's just easier. So I have a calculator that breaks everything down in inches for me. So if I type it in feet in the calculator and just convert it to inches, it's just easier for my brain to process it that way. So the bottom dimension on that was 1 foot 6 5/8. In inches, it's 18 5/8, or in decimals, it's 18.625. So that's what we're going to type in, 18.625. That's the line. Okay. I'm sorry if I didn't explain. You had to hit enter once you're done typing in the dimension. All right, so the next dimension, or the leading dimension here, is 2 inches. That's annoying that I have to minimize this. So when you hit enter, you can see that you're still drawing, right? So the line is still connected to your cruiser, and that's so that you can continue the shape that you're drawing. So you're going to position your cruiser up so the line wants to go up, and you're going to type in the dimension, 2 inches, enter. All right, you see how it completed that next line. All right, so at this point, you're going to hit escape to release it from your cruiser and leave those lines in place. And the reason why is because now this profile is going to slope up gently. It's not going left or right. There's not a straight line. It has to slope up. So what we need to do is we need to measure the slope and find out where that's at. And we do that by measuring here on the plans, obviously. So it's 3 inches at the peak. But how far back is it? 5. So It's 5 inches back at its center point and 3 inches at its peak. Those dimensions are important. So 5 and 3. Just double checking. Yes, 5 and 3. All right, so what does that mean for us? Let's go back to AutoCAD. Annoying, and I'll tell you. Okay, so it's 5 inches back and 3 inches up from the bottom line. So you're going to select your line tool, like so. You're going to click on the outside leading corner because that's where we measured from. You're going to left click, as if you were going to start drawing a line. You can see where the line is dragging along with your cruiser. Now drag your cruiser to the left, and it's going to overlay a line over the line that we already have. So what do we want to do? We want to type in 5 inches because we know that the center point of that slope is 5 inches from the face of the stone. Enter. Now the line is still connected to your cruiser. This is what we want. So measuring previously, we also know, so now we're 5 inches back from the face of the stone, and we want to go 3 inches up because that was the slope measurement. So now we just created a new line that's 3 inches up. So it's 5 inches over, 3 inches up. We're still connected. So we can actually take this line and connect it to the line that we drew in the front. Now at this point, you can hit escape. Escape on your keyboard is going to be your best friend because AutoCAD uses escape for everything. So now we've just created the slope that we see on this profile. Okay? We still need to create the rest of this profile and finish it off. And the way we do that is we figure out what was it back here. It's 1 5/8 inches. Okay, so 1 5/8 inches back here. You don't need to know any of the other dimensions because you've already drawn it from this side. So all we have to do is create this dimension back here and then connect the dots. Line tool, left click, type in the dimension. You can either type it in inches or decimals. Inches would be 1 inch or 1-5/8. I hope you can see it on your screen. It's not too small. Enter. Now it just created that line for us on the back. You can see it. That's still connected to your cruiser. So, and that's fine. So you're going to want to drag the line over, left click to connect it, escape on your keyboard to get rid of it. Now you can delete that line that we created earlier because you no longer need it. You can also, if you hover over this, you see that other line that we created 5 inches back. You can't see it other than you know it's there. So I like to provide clean drawings. I don't like dirty stuff. So I'm going to select that line and delete it because we don't need it there. So now we have a profile that's matching what we have here in the plans. All right, so now that we've created our profile in AutoCAD, now we can get to the fun part, which is the layout. I'm being sarcastic. All right, so this is where this thing is going to be installed. I'm going to go ahead and turn off lines, but it's from here to here all the way across and stops there. So there's a dilemma. There's always going to be a dilemma with shop drawings. Do you want to provide a layout drawing? Is it required? Or do you just want to do a quick and dirty shop drawing with a profile, a piece size, and be done with it? Well, the question really is, it falls kind of in between in a gray zone. And that gray zone is, well, if you do it quick and dirty, there could always be the chance that the architect could kick it back and say, no, we want a layout drawing. Very rare that an architect will do that because they really don't care most of the time. but it's also kind of your reputation. You know, are you known for good detailed drawings, or are you just going to be quick and sloppy about it? Most of the time, and I say quick and sloppy, but even you can provide a simple drawing that's not sloppy. And it is a little quicker to provide a simple drawing, but there's still calculations that you have to do in order to provide a stone that's going to work with what they need it to work with. I mean, the measurements are very important. You're obviously not going to provide a default size for everything, because it's not impossible to make it work, but you end up with more waste. Then they might end up calling you back and saying, hey, we need 20 more pieces because we made it, you know, at a specific size, and they just had a ton of waste because it didn't calculate out properly. So depending on the size of the job, I do like to do a layout drawing. And a layout drawing, what I mean is I will actually draw the entire thing and then add in all my individual joint line item, you know, my joint lines, my measurements, and you know, the stones on this side are going to be a specific size, the stones on this side are going to be a specific size, and then the stones on this side would be a specific size as well. And that way they're all even, they're all laid out properly, there's really no cutting involved except, you know, for some small adjustments on the final piece that they have to lay in. And it allows for a cleaner job. However, if the mason on the job site is doing the job quick and dirty, and they don't pay attention to your shop drawings, doing it with a layout drawing could be controversial, contradicting at the same time, because they could just grab stones assuming that they're all the same size, start laying them in, and at the end of the job end up still asking you for more stone because they cut stone that they weren't supposed to cut, and they put it on the wrong side of the building, etc., etc. So you just have to be careful. It's a double-edged sword. A lot of times you just have to follow up with your client, follow up with your installer, and make sure they have shop drawings, make sure they have the shop drawings in their hand and they understand exactly how you envisioned the stone to be installed. And that's important because on some job sites, their boss doesn't always give them the shop drawings, which is, you know, stupid, but it happens quite often, more than you would actually believe. So on this particular job, I think I'm going to go ahead and do a one piece fits all type situation. And the way I do that is that I will do a partial layout. I'm not going to provide a drawing like this with the individual joints. What I'm going to do is I'm going to reproduce this in CAD for the most part, and then we'll just follow through. So watch and learn. So 45.9. All right. Oh, that's annoying. We're going to go ahead and zoom out using our line tool. 45 feet 9 inches. Yeah, I'm aware. It's big. This side is 44.2. And I'm not drawing the doors because the coping actually sits on top. It just crosses. We don't need to worry about drawing the doors. 44.2. 44 feet 2 inches. Okay, and this dimension is no good because it's drawn wrong. We know it's 13 feet. It's 13 feet here. 13 feet. Okay. Escape. Now we have the outline of this utility yard drawn, but there's still something missing. And what we're missing here is the actual dimensions of the block wall. So let's go back. Let's look at that wall cut view, and let's go ahead and get a scale and get a measurement. So it looks like they're using 12-inch block. So it looks like the wall they have the wall drawn at 1'4". Okay, so let's go ahead and go back. These dimensions that we just drew in the computer are the dimensions of the brick. Okay, it's the outside, the farthest outside dimension of the wall. The wall is 1'4". So the easiest way to recreate your lines on the inside, which is what we're going to do, is to select your modify tool, click on join, and you can also type the command in if you want. So if you just want to type in the command and you don't want to be looking for the tool, you can actually type it in, join, enter. You're going to select all of the lines that you just drew with the left selection, with the left button on the mouse. Once you're done selecting those lines, you can see that they're highlighted. You're going to click the right button on your mouse, and you can see that the computer is going through a command list. You see where it was executing commands. Sometimes it's hard to tell what AutoCAD's doing, but essentially what we just did was when you select that line, you're now selecting the whole thing, all 3 lines. Now it acts as if it was one solid line. The reason why I did that is that I think I've included it in other videos, but the reason why I did that is so that we can save a little bit of time when we draw this, or when we offset this wall for the inside. So we know this wall, they have it drawn at 1'4". So we're going to use our offset tool. Again, you can type in the command. It's offset, right? Just select what you want. Now, it's important to know that AutoCAD is asking you for a command here. You selected you selected the command offset. And if you look at your cruiser, right, it's asking you a question. A new command has popped up there. Specify offset distance or through. So what you want to type, it's waiting for you to type something into the computer. You want to type the measurement that you're going to offset that wall. Hopefully this will make sense to you once we actually do it. So you're going to type in 1 foot 4 inches, and you're going to hit enter. Now it's asking you to select the object to offset, or. I'm not going to get into the or command. There are other commands that you could do right now by using the down arrow key on your keyboard, exit, undo. We're not doing that. So don't pay attention to that. So anyways, the next thing that you want to do immediately after typing the measurement in and hitting enter, it's telling you select the object. So you're going to select that line using your left mouse button, and you're going to drag it to the inside. You see how it offsets that line? It's actually offsetting that line for you by 1'4". That's the measurement that you typed in. So, and you can also offset it to the outside or inside, but in this particular instance, we want to drag it to the inside because we already have the outside wall drawn. So you're going to drag it to the inside and you're going to left click. Now you're going to hit escape, because if you don't, it's still selected, it's still locked to the offset tool. Okay, so what did we just do? Well, we just completed that line. Let's go ahead and draw a line here and another line here. So we have a complete wall now. So if we actually go back and look at our plan, it looks very similar to what the architect drew here. Obviously, it doesn't have the hash lines and all the fancy measurements yet, but essentially, we have our wall with the correct dimensions. And if we were to measure, you would find out that it is the correct dimension. Let me move this profile off a little bit. Okay. All right, so now we have our walls with the proper dimensions. Let's go to our annotation. Just go ahead and select a bigger dimension, probably like a 36 or a 32. Okay, maybe 32 might be too small. It's big enough. Okay. Now, remember all of the dimensions that we took and we drew this wall at, it's 13, 44.2, and 45.9. And going back to the plans, you can verify that it's all the same, except for that one because it's drawn. It's not right, but you get the point. I mean, mine's right based on this dimension here. Okay, so next step. We want a corner piece here. We're gonna need corners on this job. So lately, in reference to corners, I've just been creating a standard corner piece that will work everywhere. I used to make a special corner for specific situations, left corners, right corners, etc., etc. But on a dumpster coping or a utility yard coping like this, it's not really necessary to have special pieces, and we can get away with a standard corner piece. And the way we would do that is we're going to imagine that this stone is what we're looking at right now. So that stone is sitting on top of the wall. But we have a problem. You probably wouldn't notice it yourself, but the problem is that the wall is 1'4". That's what we just drew. We didn't draw the profile of cast stone on top of the wall. So you're asking yourself, well, how do we do that then? Well, we go back to our profile. And we got to figure out how far this cast stone overhangs. So we're going to scale it again. We're going to get our dimension. It looks like it has a 1-inch overhang to the front. Okay, a 1-inch overhang to the front. So what do? First of all, let's just go ahead and get rid of these dimension lines because we don't need to see them. We know that our wall is fine. Now, these lines still act as one line if you select them. See how it selects everything? And the same thing with the line on the back. And that's what we want. So we know it overhangs to the front 1 inch. So we're going to select our offset tool. It's waiting for you to type in a command. You're going to type in 1, which is 1 inch. And you're going to hit enter. You're going to select that line and drag it to the outside. Well, what did we just do? We created a 1-inch overhang. So now this line, the line we started with, that's the brick below the cast stone cap that we just indicated by using this line 1 inch out. Okay. What is the dimension of this cast stone cap? It's 1'6" 5/8". So what do? We go back to our lines. We go to the offset tool again. It's asking for a command. 1'6" 5/8". So 1'6" 5/8 converted to decimals or inches, it's 18 5/8. So 18 5/8. Enter. We're going to click on the outermost line because that is the outermost edge of the cast stone where it overhangs the brick. Remember, this is the brick. This is the cast stone. We're going to click on that line and we're going to drag it to the inside. And then we're going to click again. And then we're going to hit escape to release the cruiser. So this new line that we just created is 1'6" 5/8 from the front line. That's right, you guessed it. This line and this line are the cast stone cap that are sitting on top of this line and this line below. So now we have an option. We can delete these lines, which we technically don't need to see anymore, or you can hide them. Change the layer and hide them. I prefer to change the layer and hide them just in case I need them again. Trust me. Especially with bigger sets of drawings, you don't want to be deleting stuff that you might need later. And the way you do that is that you would select these two lines. You would go up here to your layers. You drop this box down. And then you would select something that you're not using or something that just makes sense. You can also create your own custom layer if you wish. For this particular situation, I'm just going to change it to layer or to line 2. Actually, I'll change it to site wall below. I'm not using this layer for anything, and it makes sense. I think I had created this already, so it makes sense that it's the site wall below. You can see where the light bulb is on, so you can still see this layer. Now, you select that. So what we just did was when you hit escape, you can see that your layer changes back to line, which is your default layer. So if you select the cast stone line, it's on line. If you select the other cast stone line, it's on line. If you select the dotted line that we just changed, it'll change back to site wall below. That's how you know it's a different layer, okay? The advantage to that is that you can take that layer independently and you can hide it, okay? And the way you do that is you go back to your layer tool, you find site wall below, and then you click on that little light bulb and you turn the layer off. So what that does is it just hides that layer from your view, and it's still there. So you can go back and turn it on later if you want, just to be, just to make sure and confirm your measurements. Now, that was the previous line that we drew. We're going to delete that because that's the brick below. We're just going to draw a new line in there because that's the end of the cast stone. Same thing here. All right. Okay. So, next step. Now we're looking at the cast stone, more or less, what the cast stone would look like. We still have to draw the peak line. So let's grab the measurement here. I think it was 5 inches. 5 inches from the front, I think. Actually, let's go back to the drawings. Yes. So the highest point is actually from the front. Okay, it's important to do that. All right. So it's 5 inches from the front. This is the outside, so this is going to be the front. We're going to click our offset tool. We're going to type in 5 inches. We're going to click that outermost line, click in, and release and escape. That is the line on our ridge right there. Okay? Okay, we're getting closer. Now, let's create our corner piece that we were talking about. Corner piece, line and line. Let's go ahead and add in, actually, let's not add. Okay, so line. So essentially, this is what that corner piece is going to look like. Let's go ahead and add in a line here to indicate that that is a corner. It slopes to the inside and to the outside. Okay, if it was flat on top, the line would stop here, indicating that it slopes on the outer edges, but this is a flat area up here. But because it slopes both ways, that line would end on the other side. Okay. Now, getting really detailed, I would add a 3/8 inch joint here, a 3/8 inch joint here, delete the space in between. And, I can get detailed, but on something this simple, it's not really 100% necessary. We just have to be really careful. If there's a lot of pieces, then we would need to get a little bit more detailed. But let's see what we end up with. So it looks like. All right, so to use the tool that I'm about to use, you need to break these lines up, explode them. And the reason why is right now it's a continuous line and it's just too much. So let's go ahead and use the explode tool, which is up here. You see where it says explode. You're going to click on that line. You're going to click on that line. You're going to click on that line. You're going to go ahead and, I'm using the left mouse button to select these lines. Once you've selected the lines, you use the right mouse button to execute. And then you can just hit the escape. All right, so what happened? Well, now you can see selecting these lines selects them independently, and it's no longer selecting the rest of the lines farther down the line. Okay? All right, so the next thing we want to do is add some joint lines here and disconnect this line from the rest of the wall. Offset 3/8 of an inch. Okay. Trim tool. Use our trim tool. Let me explain to you how to use the trim tool. I apologize. All right, so you're going to click on your trim tool, It's asking you a question there. Select objects or select all. Using it like this is difficult. You're not going to understand how to use it. So the easiest way to do it is click your trim tool. Immediately after clicking your trim tool, you are going to right click, and you'll notice that the tool changes in behavior, even though you probably didn't notice what happened in the background. If you click in between this line, it's now wanting to erase that line for you. See? Now, if you were to click trim, oh, actually you can hit enter to make the same thing happen. I didn't realize that. But if you just hit trim and go to selecting stuff, you're not going to understand what it's doing. You're like, okay, I'm trying to trim stuff, but it's not trimming or deleting. So if you just hit the trim and then hit enter, you can go and trim the lines in between other lines quite simply just by doing that. Okay. All right, so we broke this line. We broke all these lines up. We made this corner piece independent of the rest of the wall on both sides. And that's what we wanted to do, okay? So now, this coping is going to die into a building on this side. So let's just go ahead and add a line in here indicating that there's a building there, just for our own reference. The same thing here, okay? Oops. Okay, just so we know. All right, so it dies there, it dies there. So starting from this side, actually let's move these lines out about 3/8 of an inch. And the way I did that was I clicked on the move tool, I selected the line, right click, left click, drag away or drag in the direction that you want it to go, type in the measurement, okay? When you hit enter, it's going to drag that line and place it 3/8 inches off. Okay. Go back to this side here. All right, so we have two options of what we can do here. Using the offset tool or the array tool, right? We're going to use a path array. Select path array. You're going to select that line, this line here. Then we're going with the left mouse click. I apologize. I always continue to not tell you what mouse I'm using, what mouse button. Generally speaking, selecting anything is always going to be the left button, just like as if you were using the internet. All right, select that with the left. Then you're going to right click and you're going to left click the path that you want it to be offset on, or the path that you want the line to follow. So as you can tell, that line just got reproduced and jumped all the way across to the end of the stone. Not exactly what we wanted, but it is what we wanted, but we have to do some configuration up here. So now that you're done doing that, you can hit escape. Click on it again. Your menu changes up here. So you have an option. Is it measure or divide? So you can measure or you can divide. And what that means is that if you set it to divide, this box opens up for you and it's asking you for how many items you want to fit in this space. And then down below, these boxes are grayed out, but this measurement here is giving you, this measurement here is important because it's telling you how long those items are. Right now, currently, they're 1 inch long. So let's type in 10 and see what happens. Oh, okay. So now that changes to like 9 pieces of stone. It's 10 joints, 9 pieces of stone. And the size of those pieces of stone, or the size between each line, is 4'11". Still too big. Let's go with 15 pieces. Okay, now it's 3'1" 5/16". Still too big. Let's go with 18 pieces. Okay, now the measurement's 2'7" 1/4". It's a little bit more That's a little bit easier to manage, a little bit easier to handle. For a stone this size, making them 3 feet long, you're going to get yelled at by Jaime in particular. Now, sometimes we just can't help it. I mean, obviously, a job is a job, and you know, sometimes we got to make what we got to make. I mean, look at some of the stuff that we're making right now. It's just big, it's large. There's nothing we can do about it. But in this particular situation, I don't think that the architect would have any problems or qualms with a piece that's 2 foot 7 1/4 inch long. All right. So that is one option. That's using the divide tool. Okay. But the problem doing it that way is that you're not adding in the joints, because it doesn't automatically add the joints in for you. Okay, so the problem here is that at each set of stone you're losing 3/8 of an inch. So when your installer, if we were to make all of these stones at the required dimension of 2 foot 7 1/4, eventually once you get down here, once these pieces are actually installed, the last piece would have to be cut in order to fit, because you're adding 3/8 of an inch of joint or mortar space at every stone. So currently we have 18 joints, I believe. That's the way it's currently configured. Plus, we're also considering there and there, so it's actually 16. So 3/8 of an inch times 16, I mean, that's 6 inches. So it would work, and it wouldn't look terrible, because he's only taking, you know, that last stone and cutting 6 inches off of it. So to be honest with you, I think that's a good change off. And 6 inches off that last stone, nobody's ever going to notice it because it's at the very end and it doesn't join with another stone. So these are some of the sacrifices and the kind of things that I'm telling you about, you know, when, you know, shop drawings are not always easy, even though they appear to be. And sometimes you have to do a little bit of planning in advance to figure out what size works best. In this particular situation, that's okay, in my opinion, even if they have to cut this last stone 6 inches to make it work. They would install this size of stone all the way to the end, and then they would chop it off, make it fit. That's their last piece. That's acceptable, in my opinion. Now, the stone here in the front of the yard is a different story. We can't cut 6 inches off of the last stone because it would look funny or strange, in my opinion, because it's going to be between an open point and an open point. There's no termination. It's not dying into the building. It's, you know, it's from its end to end. It's open and open. So in my opinion, it looks architecturally better to have even pieces and to do the layout and to figure what our joints are going to be. And to do that, well, we have to create our corner just like we did on the other side. Okay, use our offset tool to create our joints. And we're going to use our trim tool. I'm going to trim out in between these stones. Okay, now we have an independent corner piece. Go ahead and add the line. Okay. All right. So now we have this side more or less finished. We have a corner here and a corner here, and it is lopped off independent from the rest of the wall. Let's go ahead and do our drawing here. Let's use our array tool, path array. We're going to click that, right click, left click, measure, divide. So this is where it gets tricky. What do we want to do here? Do we just want to adjust the stones until more or less we get the same size as we have on the other side. It's almost going to be impossible. So this is where you would use your divide tool. Divide, you would change that to divide. I'm sorry, not divide, measure. You would change it to measure. So now you're able to type in the exact measurement. We want it to be 2 feet, 7 inches, and 1/4. Double check that measurement. 2 foot 7 1/4. Okay. And 2 foot 7 1/4. 2 feet 7 inches. So it's 31.25 inches. 31.25. Well, I don't know why. I'll try it again. 31.25. Huh, that's interesting. 2 foot 7 1/4. Oh, okay, perfect. Wasn't paying attention. My brain's tired already. Okay, so what we just did is we just told AutoCAD that we wanted to put the same size stones. They're 2 foot 7 1/4 by changing this to the measurement instead of the divide. The other side we use divide because we wanted even pieces in there. And we don't want to make another mold for this side. So guess what happened? Now you're actually seeing that last piece being cut. And that's okay, it's acceptable because there's only going to be 1, 2, 3, 4 joints. So you're only losing 1 inch. That last piece, we're not going to make this piece that size. We're going to send it a full-size piece and they would cut it to fit in that last spot. And still, it's okay, it's acceptable in my opinion. In my opinion, that would be acceptable because it's dying into the end of a building or the edge of a building. Okay. So what do we do here? First, we're going to use our array tool. Okay, click on array, click on that line, and then we're going to array it out on the front. So we just created lines. All right. Currently, it's using the measure. We're going to use divide. 18 pieces. Let's go with 17. Okay, let's go with 18. Oh, nope, sorry. 16. 2 foot 8, 15/16. Okay, 2 foot 8, 15/16. That's acceptable. It's very close to the other measurements that we've already used. It's not the exact measurement, but it's very close. So, now we know how many stones we need here. And this is where quick and dirty come in, okay? I'm gonna do a cheat that's going to save me a bunch of time, and I'll explain it to you later. And you shouldn't do it, the majority of the time, but we're gonna go ahead and do it here. So what we're gonna do, we're also gonna do it on this side and this side to prevent the need to cut off 6 inches on that final stone. So what we're going to do is we're going to use the explode tool and we're going to explode all of these lines that we just created by selecting them all and then right clicking. Use your escape. Now they're all independent lines. Okay. So what we're going to do is we're going to use our offset tool and we're going to type in 3/8 of an inch. Now we're just going to go and we're going to offset every line all the way down by 3/8 of an inch. It all needs to be to one side as you travel down. Don't drag it up. It needs to be always down. Always drag down. Okay, always drag down. And what we're doing here is we're reducing the volume of the stone and taking out that 3/8 inch joint. preventing the last piece from being cut so dramatically. Okay, so now we can go ahead and throw in some dimensions. 1 foot 6 5/8, that's our corner dimension. Now because your first stone doesn't have any reduction, because remember, we took that first line and we drug it down. Then we took our second line and we drug it down. So what does that mean? The first stone that we started with is the original size that AutoCAD said it was going to be. But the second stone that falls in line is actually 1/8 of an inch smaller, or 3/8 of an inch smaller, because of the line or the joint that we took out. So all the way down, your stones are going to be the same size, except for that very first one. So what we're going to do is we're going to change that measurement manually, because it's only 3/8 of an inch, and that can be adjusted as the mason works his way down the wall. So we're going to take this, we're going to just double click it, make sure it's selected, 2 feet, 8 inches, 9/16. Okay, bada boom. Now, that way, all of these dimensions are going to be the same. And you can verify by adding dimension lines all the way down the wall. When you have a really big wall, adding dimension lines like this can get kind of tedious. Especially when there's a wall that's 200 or 300 feet long. And there's a cheat to that too, and I'll show you what it is later. All right. Looks like we're done changing, or we're done adding all of our dimensions on these walls. Now what we're going to do is the same thing on these other walls. Okay. Oops. Okay. Same thing. Offset, 3/8 of an inch, drag it down. All in the same direction. Go ahead and add in our dimensions. Change that dimension to 2 foot 6 7/8. Enter. Whoops. Sorry. Okay, now remember, that last stone, we wouldn't make a 1 foot stone. We would make a full piece and then they would just cut it to fit. Okay, and we're gonna do the same thing over here. Offset, 3/8 of an inch. Drag it all in the same direction towards the building. That's another thing. When you're doing this type of drawing, you always want to make sure you're dragging, or you're working towards the termination or towards the end of the building where the stone stops. Okay. Now let's go ahead and add dimension lines in. Now let me go ahead and show you that trick that I was telling you about. Okay. So what you can do, let's go ahead and change this first. Add these dimensions. Okay. This is going to be changed to 2 foot 6 7/8. All right. So what can you do to get away with adding all these individual? Well, you can add one big long one. You can copy the dimension that you just put in here. Yes, I copied that and it's saying, oh, it's copy and paste and you're not going to be able to see it because the text is white. Don't worry about it. All right, now you select that text by double clicking, paste that in there. Same thing we do with shop drawings. Oops, can't spell, I got fat fingers. Typical. So what that is telling the installers and Jaime, our fabrication manager, is that this entire wall is a typical size of 2 foot 6 7/8. So we put dimensions on the first two stones. In all reality, we could take out this dimension and just drag this over here. So basically what we're telling everybody is that it's 2 foot 6 7/8. All these pieces are 2 foot 6 7/8. Measurement on the first stone and then typical all the way across. And the same would be here if it was long enough to bother doing that with, but you can leave the dimensions like that. Okay. You could have done the same thing in the front, put a dimension, we could have just deleted all of these, selected that dimension that we had. Yes, we know. You always want a dimension on the first stone. Let's go ahead and delete those. Sorry. Okay, you always have a dimension on the first stone. Typical. Yes, I have fat fingers. Okay, and there you have it. This, even though my intention was not to show you a layout drawing, this is exactly a layout drawing. So this is actually providing the mason contractor, the installing contractor, with a little bit better detail on where each stone goes and what size he's supposed to use where. Okay, now we need to take this and we need to lay it out on a layout space so that we can actually print it on a piece of paper. So right now, the way it currently is, it's impossible. Okay, so let's go to our layout view. And the reason why I try to stay away from complete layouts like this is that they tend to get big and it's hard to get all that information on a regular sheet of paper. As you can tell, it's, itty bitty bitty. So you have to be inventive with your layout drawings. So we're going to be inventive on this one. We're going to lay it out as large as we can. We're probably going to have to go back. No, I don't know. They might be able to see those dimensions once it's printed. It looks very, very small on this piece of paper here, but we can always print it and see what it looks like once it's printed. All right. Go ahead and put that there. That's the top view. This is a true layout view. So this is a top oops, what happened there? Top layout. Okay. This is the profile view, or it's going to be. Okay. Let's go ahead and turn our hidden viewport layer on. There's our viewport. Let's go just drag that over because we don't need it all over here. Let's go ahead and go to our layout viewport, a new rectangle. Okay, there's our new viewport. Double click to get inside of it. Zoom into our profile. And we're going to doctor this up and make it look good. But for now, we need to get a pretty good layout view of it. Okay, escape. Outside of your viewport, double click to get out of it. Trust me, it's going to be a pain in the butt. Let's go ahead and adjust that a little bit. We don't need it all the way out there. Now, go back to home. Select that viewport again and change the layer. Make sure it's on hidden viewport, okay? All right, let's adjust this, profile view. All right, perfect. So actually, let's drag that up a little bit. I know. Model, let's go back to our model view. Annotation, that's 32. So we're going to delete that because it's just too big. Go to our annotation, dimension. I'm going to change this to probably something more manageable, maybe a dim 8. Let's see if my eyeballs can find the dim 8. Already tired for the day. I see a dim 4. Ah, here we go, dim 8. All right. Let's go ahead and add some dimension lines here. Linear. Much more manageable. A little easier on the eyes. All the pertinent information that the architect and fabrication manager needs to know. Okay. The ridge, the peak, the edge, and the rear edge. Okay. Back to layout. Now we can double click on the profile view again. Drag it down a little bit. Double click out. Drag that up a little bit. Okay. All right, let's go ahead and change the information on the page. This is a typical, what is this? A typical wall coping. Typical wall coping at, let's go back to the set of plans. What is this? Utility yard? Okay. Utility yard. Utility yard. Okay. Typical wall coping at utility yard. I'm going to go to enter. Okay. Not to scale. 1 ACM required. It's an assembly. So it's an entire assembly. So they'll have to do the math. So, okay. 1 assembly required. Our top layout view, our profile view. It's page 1. There's been no revisions. That's the date to be approved as far as the color goes, because we don't know what the color is yet. Project number. Actually, the date needs to be changed because today is the 22nd, and the project number needs to be changed as well. It's the year, which is 2021. Then it is the month and the day. Enter. Drawn by, checked by. If you were doing shop drawings, it would be drawn by your initials, and then if I was double checking your shop drawings, that would be my initials. But in my case, it's both. All right, so job name is MJG library. Let's go back to the set of plans because I don't know where this is at. Oops, sorry. Where's the location of this job? Lamar University. It's in Beaumont. Okay. 4400 MLK. MLK Boulevard. And that is in Beaumont, B-E-A-U. Texas, installing contractors, Alliance Masonry. All the other information looks to be okay. So the only other thing that I would want to do personally is obviously now you can hide your viewport. So the easiest way to find it is just to select your viewports. It already automatically populates it there. And click on your light bulb. See how it makes that disappear and it's all nice? All right. So me personally, I'm going to print this on the normal printer just to see. I'm going to click on the window. We're going to select the page that we want to print. Okay, printer, okay. I'm going to print it physically so that I can make sure that I can actually read it. With the size of these dimensions here, I'm concerned that the reviewing architect or the masonry contractor is not going to actually be able to read it because it's going to be too small. So that is printing right now. I'm going to take a look at it. And yes, as I feared, it's a little too small. So we will fix that. The profile view is actually pretty good. It's actually a little too small for my taste, but it's still very readable. But let's go to this wall here. We're going to need to fix that. All right. So the way we fix this is we select our dimensions. Okay, and then we grab our annotation. It's currently 32, which is too small. Let's see. 48 doesn't really make it that much bigger. Let's see. Well, it did make it a little bit bigger. Let's see what a 64. Might need to make it a 64 just because. All right, so this is the problem. This is what happens when you make dimensions too big, when you have a layout that's so small. Now, right now, we just increased the size of those numbers and they're about the same size as the profile view. So I know now that they'll probably be visible, but now you can see it's doing all kind of wacky stuff. So unfortunately, it's going to require manual adjustment. And so the way you're going to do that is you're going to just take this and you're going to move with text only, your F8 key to unlock it, and you're just going to have to move this manually, because if you don't, it's going to want to do all kind of wacky stuff trying to make these dimensions fit in between the lines. So it's not 100% ideal, but you know, it gets the job done. And because it's not a difficult layout, this is okay because you're not readjusting a million different measurements. I'm going to go ahead, just because there's so many measurements overlapping here, I'm just going to go ahead and use the shortcut 64. No. Sorry, let me grab this measurement here, copy that, paste that. Okay, now that we've made those changes, we'll go back to our layout, double click inside that view, position it up a little bit, double click out. All right, and there you have it. We have a finished shop drawing. Now, again, my suggestion would be to print it one more time, just to make sure that you can read the dimensions, but I'm fairly confident myself, personally, right now, that the dimensions can now be read. But if you have any concerns, you would definitely print it out one more time just to make sure that you can read it. I mean, obviously, digitally we can zoom in and we can see these numbers, but printing it out on a piece of paper is a lot different than reading a digital file. Okay. Now we're gonna save it, make sure that it's saved. Obviously, we're gonna go ahead and print it to a PDF. Window. There you go. And it's monochrome. Okay, we're good to go. We'll click OK. And proceed as you would normally. Save it to your desktop. And you can go ahead and close AutoCAD, save the file. All right, until our next video. Thanks for attending.